welcome. We're back again for another wonderful episode of Meaningful Times with Friends. This is episode 15, man. Pretty good milestone. Nathan from Newark, Jason, Ramshackle Dan. Back again is the incredible Rhyme Animals. This is the noose that is slowly choking the life out of Meaningful Times with Friends. Because Battle of the Bads has been the downward spiral of our show. We kicked off Battle of the Bads with an episode, I think it was 12, and we had 130 views on that. And then episode 13 was finishing up Battle of the Bads, and that episode has not even hit 100 views. And episode 14 has hit over 100 views already, but episode 13, I don't know what it is, but people really know to avoid Battle of the Bads. So I'm not expecting much of a viewership on this, but anybody who is tuning into this episode, God bless your hearts. Like I tell at my comedy shows, if you have enemies, recommend this show to them, especially the Battle of the Bads episodes. So, all right.
Unfortunately, all my enemies are on this show.
Ooh, shots fired. Look at this, man.
Usually you're complaining to the people that are watching about the people that aren't watching. But now you're actually thanking the people who are watching. So it's a good
thank the people who've watched. Shut up. Jason, you actually have a rare something to say. What do you want to say?
Oh, yeah. So I'm on vacation visiting family, and I made the mistake of telling them I couldn't make it to breakfast because of an embarrassing commitment. I said, well, my embarrassing commitment is actually a podcast that I have to record. And so they all got very excited, said, oh, we can't wait to listen. Then I said, please don't. I prefer an audience that I don't know. I prefer strangers to people I know, especially
and my
parents.
Family,
please.
The viewers that I know have been regular are my parents. I think Chris Nornberg checks in and checks out every now and then. Kanoa, Wyatt Tungate.
Wyatt. Yeah. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Wyatt.
Happy Thanksgiving. Wyatt.
Oh, shout out to Tom and Janet, my aunt and uncle in Fresno. They are, I think, regulars of this program as well.
There's some regulars. There are others, but I think some people check in and check out and then check back in. So, like we had Gino back in the day, back in the early days of Meaningful Times with Friends.
I wonder what happened there.
I don't know, man. Some people just lose interest. That's fine with me. So we are back with Battle of the Bads round 2. Battle of the Bads is our NCAA version of trying to figure out who is the worst of bands. Ramshackle, why don't you explain? Because we had lists of bands and you boiled it down to 32.
Yeah, we had a list of close to 100 bands that we all submitted between us. Just nominating, these are bands that we think are objectively horrible. And then I boiled it down, paired them up, sent it out for a lengthy review process, which we won't go into. We all watched hours and hours and hours of horrible music videos. And I think it took a psychological, emotional toll. And I think there was damage done to our psyches and our friendships that'll never be repaired.
Yes, exactly. It's good sometimes to test the strengths of friendship. All right, so we are in round 2 now. We've gone through all of those first 16 matchups, and we now have 8 matchups to get through in this episode, and we'll see how fast we get through them. So if I remember, we will go to each matchup, and then each of us will give our answer, and we'll see if we have a decision or if it's a tie and we have to flip a coin. So let's go with the first of our 8 matchups, which I believe is New Kids on the Block versus Counting Crows.
This was actually one of the easier ones for me on this list because we're getting into some real bullshit now with all these fucking matchups. But as bad as Counting Crows might be, and as scarred as I am from my past in dealing with them, I feel like this is a grand slam. I feel like New Kids on the Block knock it out of the fucking park on this one. They absolutely deserve to move on the strength of Please Don't Go Girl Alone. So yeah, I don't even know if I can go on with this one. Just New Kids all the way.
Oh, I agree that it's a grand slam, but I think that Counting Crows. Oh, I still have to hear Counting Crows on a regular basis. I don't have to hear New Kids on the Block at all. So
Mr.
that
Joe's
fucked up.
and Jason. All right. So yeah, so that's one for Counting Crows. Ramshackle, what do you got?
I think it's about containment. I think we have achieved containment for the most part because Counting Crows, while they're still kind of out there, they're really contained to 3 songs. And New Kids on the Block, every time you thought it was over, like to his point, Please Don't Go Girl, then there was Step by Step, which I don't know if you remember that one. That was going too far. And they're touring again. And they look worked the fuck over. Like they got their face fucking like sandblasted, but not in a good way. There's some deep and dark, like they look rough. Like basically after Step by Step, they just drank and smoked until now. So they're still out there. They're still causing harm, and their music is objectively horrible. So I'm gonna go New Kids on the Block.
I'm starting to see where a pattern that, if a band has caused someone more trauma, that is the worst band for the person, because I too will make this decision for us. It is New Kids on the Block for the lose, mainly because I think Ramshackle summed it up. Yeah, Counting Crows had just a handful of songs. My reasoning, though, wasn't so much that, other than that Counting Crows can play instruments, and New Kids on the Block were the first of these white boy dancing, singing. It also led to Milli Vanilli later with just 2 guys dancing and not singing, but which then also put people of color in a bad light, unfortunately. And I'm like, I know there's white boys doing this shit too. So
I know there was no racism before New Kids on the Block and Milli Vanilli.
No, before Milli Vanilli, there wasn't. It was good. It was a good country. And then
No. Milli Vanilli were from Germany, weren't they?
They're
European.
Conspiracy. This is conspiracy right here.
It is.
To thwart our melting pot by Germany. New Kids moves on. All right, next up, we have Consolidated versus Crazy Town. If you really needed to think about this one, no one knows about Consolidated. There's nothing better than a forgotten band that isn't that great. And oddly enough, Consolidated still have some, like, I was looking when I was doing my research on Consolidated for the first round. There are some Reddit threads where people are like, "Man, I wish I heard this. This band, this is great. So they've got like a nice little under the underground following of people that just never found this group that was woke before it was woke. They were really awake and whatever back in the 90s. Crazy Town, good God. One song, a lot of damage, still a lot of damage being done on a regular basis, hurting minds, hurting young children, people seeing this, getting tattoos, getting face piercings, and thinking that this song is still okay to do hard drugs to. Crazy Town was my easy choice in this. Who's next?
I'll go next because I have the opposite.
No doubt, Captain Contrarian.
So I would say for kind of the same reasons. First of all, if you're like still into Consolidated, you shouldn't be able to vote because you are so fucking simple-minded to like listen to this music and go like, yeah, this is fucking deep. It's like, no, dude, it's someone fucking reading off a left-wing punch list. Anyways, it's so bad that I'm like, you know what? Maybe Rage Against the Machine wasn't all that bad because it was at least like somewhat like cloaked in one good each song was one riff, but it was like, okay, well, this guy's giving his like heavy-handed political beliefs, but he's rapping it in some sort of metaphor. And then I'm like, now I'm starting to fucking have to think like about Rage Against the Machine, and I blame Consolidated for that. So fuck Consolidated. I think they're horrible. And Crazy Town was just it's a one-hit wonder. It was just a dance song. Like, ease up, Dave.
Now you're defending Crazy Town. This is your summary sounds like a Consolidated song.
Well, we live in tumultuous times. I mean, Roe v. Wade overturned a year or two ago. It could all be a Consolidated's fault. Like, one of the Supreme Court justices heard butyric acid and was like, "Fuck that song! I'm taking Roe v. Wade down." I mean, you don't know. You don't know what Consolidated could have done.
Clarence Thomas is into death grips.
I'm looking at the only 4 people who are talking about Consolidated this year.
But having said that, did Crazy Town even make a ripple? I think I had heard their one song over the years, but I could never have named them as a band. Whereas I could have named Consolidate. I don't know. Crazy Town is, I think, objectively worse than Consolidated. They have bad tattoos, bad white rappers. Fuck them. They move on.
Okay, Consolidated were like my personal vendetta choice of this whole process.
Get the coin ready.
But I cannot deny that Crazy Town are the fucking worst of the two. It's true. They're really bad. I never got secondhand embarrassment from Consolidated. I was just annoyed by them, deeply annoyed. But I had like this vicarious feeling of shame while watching that Crazy Town video. So
yeah,
it might have been due to your fucking rock hard erection from watching that sexy song.
This is probably the one time Jason saw half naked dudes and didn't. Like, this is terrible. And they're not having sex. And he's like, come on.
Well, that and bumping his banana hammock.
What?
Crazy Town. They're moving on. Next up, this seemed like it was going to be difficult, but it's sort of like Hulk Hogan going up against Randy Macho Man Savage in the 80s. Like, you know, it's like Savage could take him, but I think we know who's going to win. And this is Grateful Dead versus Bone Thugs and Harmony. Good matchup. Let's go ahead and go around. Jason?
Okay, Grateful Dead. Grateful Dead. Grateful Dead. Grateful Dead. Like I said last time, Bone Thugs, like, it didn't bother me as much as I was expecting it to. I didn't hate them as much as I remembered. They weren't as offensive to my ear as I recall them being when they were contemporary. But yeah, Grateful fucking Dead.
That should be a poem. Grateful Dead, Grateful Dead, Grateful fucking Dead.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I didn't actually realize. I think Bone Thugs was Nate's, right?
Both of these were.
I had Bone Thugs on mine as well.
So I just remember that really stupid song, but I remember how stupid the video was, the Crossroads video, and just like how heavy-handed and like cheesy it was. And so at first I was like, well, they weren't so bad, but I got them confused with Blackstreet. And then once I started going back, and then I started seeing like they kept going into the 21st century, and it was bad, weird kind of stuff. So I kind of started getting into how bad it was. And so I watched maybe like 3 or 4 videos. Grateful Dead, on the other hand, I tried to watch one concert video, and it's just unbearable. It's not like it's just bad; it's bad and long. I don't know, man. I don't know how you're gonna. I honestly don't know how you're gonna beat them. They're just so fucking like generationally horrible. And like anyone who's like really into the Grateful Dead, my question always in the back of my mind is like, there's something fucking wrong with this person. Like, because I just don't understand the mental mechanism to hear that much fucking 12-bar blues for that long. And just fucking really trite, like, subject matter. It's just fucking droning on and on and on and on garbage. I meet people now and then that are into it. And I'm just like, there's got to be something fucking wrong with you. So anyways, yeah, Grateful Dead for sure.
I think it ties back to that article you sent us, the conspiracy article, that what if the Grateful Dead were actually a CIA operation, like Operation Pied Piper, to just feed all these dipshits drugs and then have one singular song that just went in circles forever to Pied Piper these assholes.
That would make sense too. That would explain Fish, right?
That would make the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really would.
I think we're really onto something here.
It's funny. My wife and I were at that restaurant we eat at frequently, where they play a good mix of music, and the Grateful Dead came out as always. And at the time, I was kind of like, Grateful Dead remind me of like a lethargic Tom Petty or something. Like there's something in the vocals with Jerry Garcia that sounds like kind of a nasally sort of thing, kind of on the same level as Tom Petty. And I'm not a Tom Petty fan, but Tom Petty is so much more listenable than the fucking Grateful Dead. Bone Thugs and Harmony also are awful. It's funny. I went back and watched Chris Rock's old Black People versus N-word bit, And I realized he had made fun of Bone Thugs and Harmony in that bit. Because when we did the research for this, I watched a bunch of videos, and I don't think I really knew that song "First of the Month" by
First of the
Bone Thugs,
month.
which Chris Rock called a welfare carol.
Yeah.
So people have been bagging on Bone Thugs and Harmony for decades now, even when they were relatively new. That being said, I'm in agreement with Jason and Ramshackle thus far that Grateful Dead are objectively the worst band in this matchup and perhaps even this tournament. So I'm going Grateful Dead. Moving on, baby.
Look at that. See? Hogan leg slam right there. Also, I want to address that Ramshackle thought he confused Bone Thugs and Harmony with Blackstreet.
Yep.
I believe Blackstreet, they had the hit No Diggity.
No diggity. It's a good song.
Yep.
That is, I mean, I don't like to accuse anybody of racism, but it is a far cry from Bone Thugs and Harmony. Blackstreet's
because at the time there were literally only 2 black acts out at the time.
No,
so
there were more, and Blackstreet was close. Blackstreet was closer to Belle Biv DeVoe than Bone Thugs and Harmony.
I was still reeling from the CNC Music controversy at the time.
There was no thugs in Blackstreet. I mean, like the Bone Thugs and there's thugs in the name of Bone Thugs and Harmony. Blackstreet was more the slick kind of, club dancing. There's no thugs. It's food for thought. So yeah, I'm gonna concur. Grateful Dead versus Bone Thugs and Harmony. I can actually find some value in humor at Bone Thugs, terribleness. And again, one of the things I do love is they were the first gospel choir rapper singer group and the last. There isn't another group following up Bone Thugs and Harmony with more let's do the rap with the nobody's doing that. No one. It started and ended with Bone Thugs. And Bone Thugs, what's funny is some of the bones, the busy bone or the chicken bone, whatever the fuck, there's all kinds of bones. That's all their names are Bones. And they do appearances and they show up or whatever, but they never get the whole group back together again for some reason. I don't know. And good move on their part. Whereas Grateful Dead, even though they don't die, not only did they inspire another band called Fish that makes no fucking sense just as much, spelling it with a PH, who've carried on their long unlistenable jams to Mushrooms music. But what's the guy's name? There's a guy from the band who he's like one of the main people that keeps going. It's like his name and whatever fucking players.
Is it Weir? Bob Weir?
Bob Weir. Thank you. You knew it. The hate runs strong in Nate for Grateful Dead. He remembers the name. But yeah, it's those guys. They still keep it alive and going. Who was it that we were talking? I don't know if we talked about it on here or whatever, but somebody realized that Jerry Garcia was only 56 or something when he died, and he looked like he was 100.
It was in our chat. We were talking about it for some fucking reason.
It's the Willie Nelson syndrome. Like at 25, he looked like that. He just kept looking like that for another 70 years.
Oh, it was because Jason posted us some street art in our chat of Jerry Garcia surrounded by floating hamburgers.
Oh, that's right. The hamburgers image. I'm going to have to show that in this now. All right.
Maybe one of the most, not just the worst band ever, maybe the most overrated band in the history of music.
You know what's funny though? When I think of it with Jerry Garcia and hamburgers, it reminds me of Wimpy. I mean, Garcia and all of, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
I will gladly give you a dime bag for a hamburger today, man.
Yeah, man. So I could see that shit happening. So, all right. So Grateful Dead moving on. And as we've kind of predicted, could be the group that takes it all. Let's see. Next matchup, as you can see, is Goo Goo Dolls versus Limp Bizkit. Some of you might thought of this as a slam dunk. This took a little, I had to take a little moment to figure this one out because, Goo Goo Dolls, they only had one song that really was that I can think of, that just the don't want the whole world to see me, because I don't think that they would understand. Sort of how Jason feels when he's watching a Crazy Town video. So Goo Goo Dolls, being just as I feel that way about Goo Goo Dolls, that they do make me kind of embarrassed for them. But Limp Bizkit still did and is continuing to do damage to young minds. There are people that unironically love Limp Bizkit to this very day that I still have to kind of plant the seed of like, no, this is, you really could use a lobotomy if you find any of this on any level to be of any value. So Limp Bizkit was the worst of the two, mainly because of the damage factor. They like to break stuff. I don't know. They wrote a song about breaking stuff, and they broke me. So
Goo Goo Dolls are the only band that I re-listened to for this contest because their music doesn't resonate with me. I just can't remember who or what they are. So I did a re-listen this morning, and they're like a Nilla wafer. You know what I mean? Like they're musical Nilla wafer. They're inoffensive and boring, and you're never ever gonna seek them out. But they're just over there being boring. Whereas Limp Bizkit are like fucking just whack ass part of that 1999 fucking rap rock bullshit that was going on, and I will never ever purposely choose to listen to Limp Bizkit. So they've got to move on. They're definitely worse.
Limp Bizkit. Oh, you know what? Let somebody else go because there's somebody knocking on the fucking door.
gotcha.
Probably Fred Durst.
Does he live down in Southern California? That's
Fred Durst is the type of guy who would try to fucking pick on Jason.
beat his fucking ass, Jason.
For that alone, Limp Bizkit. No.
You're not doing it all for the nookie, Jason.
Yeah, even you could even start to go down the road of like Goo Goo Dolls is just a fucking embarrassingly terrible band name, but then you go to Limp Bizkit spelled like that, and it's just like in every phase of the game. I agree with Nathan. It's fairly innocuous. It had a couple other hits, one Slide that I still hear on the radio, but it is, and that's why I kind of matched up in the beginning against the Gin Blossoms because they were almost the same band. It was like kind of just had to acknowledge that sort of innocuous like long hair love song crap that just kind of crawled out of the ashes of hair rock. But I agree. I mean, Limp Bizkit is, to Jason's point, like I remember being embarrassed when I saw it when it came out. And it was just like, what the hell are you doing? And then you start seeing people getting into it. And I was like, then getting embarrassed for people who are into it. And it's like one of those things like those like lower back tattoos that were really popular for a long time. It's one of those things where I don't think anyone's going to admit being into Limp Bizkit. I'd say like maybe
not true. Not true. They speak up again. Like I said, the dude was wearing a red hat back then. Their fans are like MAGA. Like they're literally like, make new metal great again people. So
all right. Anyways, Limp Bizkit.
I was going to say Limp Bizkit I'm sorry, Bizkit. I keep calling them Limp Bizkit. That's correct. It's funny that like two such horrible names, like from different ends of the spectrum, have come together for this particular matchup. I really hate the name Goo Goo Dolls, but I loathe the name Limp Bizkit. And also just the macho factor. Sprinkle a little macho on something, and I'm immediately running away from it. So Limp Bizkit kicked up the ladder.
It's just one of those days, huh, Jason?
My second cup of coffee, so I'm starting to feel a little aggro.
That's good though, because it's going to be really hard to unseat. It's going to be hard to beat the Grateful Dead, but this is now a worthy opponent.
Yeah, no, if there's a Ric Flair,
I think so. Yeah,
to take down Hogan, that would be Limp Bizkit. Mm-hmm. And you know what's the irony, Jason, is that Limp Bizkit did start a riot. So just so you know. And so, okay, so Limp Bizkit moves on. All right, your next round. And this one was one of the ones I thought was kind of difficult. House of Pain versus Porno for Pyros. On one hand, you have a rap group. I think Ramshackle really made the solid point that they instituted a sense of Irish pride, and as though Irish people were a minority. And yet Porno for Pyros is an entire band that actually just dropped a new single. You could almost call Porno for Pyros coattails, like Jane's coattails, because that's what they've been writing this entire time. I actually just listened to House of Pain on purpose, that album that I do like, the second album, and his rhymes are so wonderfully terrible. I don't listen to Jump Around or Shamrocks and Shenanigans. For some reason, I just love hearing their bad rap. Porno for Pyros just depresses me at the thought of just seeing their name. We did get feedback from Wyatt Tungate when I said that Porno for Pyros sounds like a band name that's on a list of other band names that would be included with like Bud Court, and Wyatt appreciated. He didn't appreciate it, but he was like, "Oh, thanks for including me in that in your fucking thing." I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm just paying tribute to the slap of the bass, So, anyways, Porno for Pyros was who I thought was the worst, just because House of Pain still brings me joy, even in their terribleness. Porno for Pyros does not. So,
First of all, Wyatt, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. If I forget to,
Merry Christmas too. That's a good point.
So, like, as objectionable as House of Pain, I do agree the beats, like that '90s beat. You had the same stuff with the Alcoholics, with Young Black Teenagers, Funk Dubious. Like, it's like really like a shitty attempt at Funk Dubious is what his rhymes are. But anyways, and as bad as it is, like Porno for Pyros, one, never should have existed, and two, the cardinal sin of entertainment is being fucking boring. And that's the thing about Porno for Pyros. It's just like, it's slow and it's just dull, and it's unmemorable except for the name, which again we can go down that road again. But I want to vote for House of Pain because they make me angrier. But Porno for Pyros is just fucking, it's like useless. It's completely useless music for, I don't know who it's for. I don't even think Perry Farrell likes it. I actually find Porno for Pyros, like, audio and visual, like, depressing. Like, it makes me unhappy to listen to it, to think about it, see the work, which is why I was tempted to just try and like get a House of Pain train moving. But it's just bad. Like, when you start talking about it, I can't even bullshit my way into an argument that House of Pain is worse. And I agree with you, Dave. There is a guilty pleasure silliness, and so bad it's like listenable to House of Pain, despite the stupid Irish American movement.
Word. All right, so we got two for Porno. Nate, what do you got?
Okay, so there was a brief
this beforehand.
No, I mean, this is rough, man. There was a brief period where I liked both of these. I mean, I went and saw like the Soul Assassins tour, like, what was that, 92, or I don't know. It was Cypress Hill, House of Pain, Funk Dubious. So there was a brief period where I dug what all of these hip hop groups that sounded the same. Essentially, I dug them briefly. Even in Porno for Pyros, I was into Jane's Addiction, and I briefly liked them as well. So House of Pain had the line, I'm Irish, but I'm not a leprechaun," which is fucking whack as hell. But Porno for Pyros are sort of the Goo Goo Dolls version of Jane's Addiction. Like, even as much as I do like Jane's Addiction, they're deeply non-memorable. And so I think I genuinely did get a little more joy out of House of Pain, so I am going to go with Porno for Pyros on this one.
There you go. This is man. It's tough when you have. This is the one roundup where there's a little love.
Just a little, yeah, for each one, just a little.
It's who do you have less hate for? That's the thing, is I forget how bad those rhymes are, and when I listen to them to the beats and hearing Everlast's voice, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that one. That's so bad, and I like it. It's. I mean, you mentioned the guilty pleasure. What's the fucking crawling in my skin? That group, the Linkin Park.
Oh yeah. So there is an element of that for sure.
Yeah, and I'm House of Pain guilty pleasure for sure, and it's the Muggs beats and all. I saw House of Pain also. They played with Primus on a New Year's, and what was great about it was I didn't know how short Everlast was. He wasn't that tall. I didn't know that. Danny Boy, though, his second in command rapper, he's taller. But I was in the very front, and House of Pain was played second, and there was a guy right in the front of the barrier. There's security behind the barrier. There's a stage. This was at that one of the auditoriums in Oakland, and the dude is just sitting there in the front the whole time with his middle finger at House of Pain. Like he's just standing there in the front, full finger right up there for them to see. And Danny Boy passes by and looks and like kind of grins at him and seeing like, am I seeing this correctly? And Everlast catches wind of him too. And at some point after I think like he was holding it up for like whole songs. And then at some point Everlast jumps into the security pit. That's when I realized how short he was. I want to say he's about as tall as me, maybe even shorter. Then he's talking. I'm like, hey, yo, whatever, whatever. And he reaches. He's behind the security guys, and the security guys are like, big pillars, but that he's standing behind. Remember 4 large pillars in my front yard? The song that Dennis made. So picture that. And Everlast reaches from behind them to try and grab this guy, and the security, all with Everlast, grabs this guy to like yank him to eject him, and all of the crowd that was around that guy grabbed that guy and yanked him right back and pulled him away from security and away from Everlast and threw it. And I thought it was one of the most bitch moves ever in response to just a guy who didn't like House of Pain. that was one of those poser moves. I'm like, well, if you were really a gangster there, Everlast, you would have brought out your gat and turned it sideways the way you're not supposed to shoot it, and shot the kid right there in the middle of the concert, and got all that street cred. So
House of Pain is, they're lousy, but they're not bad. They're not like super bad. Like Porno for Pyros is just bad. They made me unhappy. So yeah, Porno for Pyros. I don't have a lot to say about them.
When I start thinking about it, it just makes me unhappy.
bums you out. Yeah, no, Porno for Pyros.
It's really drag, man.
Should be Porno for Depression. All right.
Yeah, porno is supposed to be a happy thing. It's
Yeah, this is
Well, you've never read about porn dick.
I feel like Porno for Pyros is like a long obituary for Jane's addiction. Since I guess I don't know. Whatever. So yeah, Porno for Pyros moves on, and we get to be bummed out next round thinking about him again. Our next matchup. This one, I'm probably going to be the one vote for. I think I already know who all you guys are choosing, but Imagine Dragons versus My Chemical Romance. All right, let's get this opinion out of the way. Ramshackle, who do you got?
Imagine Dragons is. They don't bother me that much as they bother you guys. I also have a small child, and that's like perfect music for a small child. He thinks they're catchy. Their songs are different enough from each other where it's somewhat interesting. My Chemical Romance is just some like sad like aftermarket goth wannabe garbage pop shite. I think they're just there's nothing redeeming about My Chemical Romance and their posers. Where Imagine Dragons is just schlock. Where My Chemical Romance is schlock, and it's like really trying for something. I can see you're really agreeing with me, Dave.
I think you're really trying for something, because you don't have to defend another group for one to be worse. And hearing your horse shit about Imagine Dragons now I know what you sound like in meetings at your job. So, because that was
okay. First of all, this is my job.
No,
it's not about that. It feels like it really does. Second of all, I choose to defend Imagine Dragons a little bit to create a juxtaposition between two choices. You see, Dave, when
I'm gonna go back and find the first round, and I'm gonna see what your summary was of Imagine Dragons there. I know that you're gonna pick My Chemical Romance, but you don't need to defend Imagine Dragons to do so. That's all I'm saying.
I understand your perspective, and as per usual, I don't care. But
well, thankfully, my Zoom is fucking you up right now, so I can't even hear your bullshit.
My Chemical Romance is objectively horrible.
Yeah, no doubt.
Imagine Dragons are sort of like Black Keys. It's sort of that music that ends up in like Chevy commercials when you're watching an NFL game or something. You know what I mean? Just like boring ass anthemic music that just ends up selling shit. I don't know. My Chemical Romance didn't bother me all that much when I listened to it. I think I would seek out, but I think Imagine Dragons are pretty fucking terrible, so I got to go with them. These are some tough choices. I mean, like it's like shit, like diarrhea versus I don't know. I don't even know varying types of fucking poo to fucking compare with. But yeah,
it's like drinking your own diarrhea versus drinking someone else's.
I imagine that's the sound you make when Grateful Dead comes on at that
yeah.
I'm going to go with Imagine Dragons because there's not a lot left for me to say about either one of them that I didn't say the last time we talked about them. They're both pretentious bands, but from different directions. Let's just say I was shocked by what both bands sounded like, because they had reputations, because I only ever heard either one of them in the context of this this process. So I was no, actually I take that back, because I did hear one Imagine Dragons song, that Thunder song that is still the only song that I'm aware of by them. And it was so bad. It was so just embarrassingly bad. And just, I don't know, it felt really low effort. My Chemical Romance, like they're trying, they're trying really, really fucking hard. So I'm going to go with Imagine Dragons as being worse.
Okay, that's good, because I look forward to having a completely different opinion about Imagine Dragons next round, to Dave's point.
I was expecting another resounding hateful rants on My Chemical Romance after their first round trouncing. Because, you guys were just like, man, My Chemical Romance, my God. I can't believe kids.
It's all about the matchup, man. It's all about the matchup.
It is. To Ramshackle Dan's credit, Jason did defend a little bit of My Chemical Romance, saying they're trying. At least he did it in a few words. I was like Nate in the first round with My Chemical Romance, where they don't bother me that much. I think what it's easy to hate about My Chemical Romance are the fans, who they inspire, because we saw people who looked like them growing up who were a lot more intense, like real cutters, like not Hot Topic cutters. Like they're, these, real people that would be, slicing their skin in class and shit. And we don't like seeing that shit appropriated by a bunch of New Jersey fucking, kids with some eyeliner and some makeup to pale them out or whatever. I don't mind their songs. I don't think I don't listen to them, but when I've heard them, I'm like, oh, I could see being a kid and enjoying this if I was a depressed child and whatever. Imagine Dragons, though, I can't imagine anybody. Like, if I knew somebody who was like, yeah, I really like Imagine Dragons, that is grounds for elimination from my circle of just people. This whole competition made me aware of what songs were Imagine Dragons. And that awareness now is, I'm through the looking glass and like, oh, this is commercial music. It's made for commercials. It's made for streaming programs or whatever. It ads, like basically they'll play this thing for ads. And this is a band that like set out to do that. I'll give them only one piece of credit, is that they do it with only like two instruments, primarily drums and vocals, which you would think would be impressive, which is kind of what Consolidated was. So if anything, Imagine Dragons is just as successful Consolidated with no message. And if only Consolidated really consolidated what was, their terribleness, they could have been Imagine Consolidated as Dragons. So yeah, Imagine Dragons for me, and surprisingly, they move on. Holy shit, man! I'm sorry, Ramshackle Dan. I'm sorry. My apologies.
After that rant, I'm gonna go check out their catalog after this.
Okay. To really put them.
Take my pants off on a cocktail. Listen to Imagine Dragons.
You're right, though. They are for kids. Like kids.
It's children's music. It's children's music. It's like anthemic, epic, like just pop schlock.
It's easy rhythms, and it's like sophisticated nursery rhyme songs. So
exactly right.
All right, moving on. Our next matchup is Nelson versus Cherry Poppin' Daddies. I don't think you could pick two groups that are more forgotten than these two battling each other, which, really groups that like we had to dig through the muck to involve them in this. And it's funny that they matched up to each other.
Nelson, it's an issue where Nelson didn't affect me nearly as much as Cherry Poppin' Daddies did. I remember Cherry Poppin' Daddies when they were a ska band, and then they jumped on the swing bandwagon, and that lack of integrity is making me vote for them as being the worst band of the two, because Nelson started off and ended exactly as they intended to be, which was weird Barbie doll rock star boys who had sort of kind of simmering incestuous kind of looks at each other, as I think somebody else mentioned.
Yeah.
Easy choice.
You picked Cherry Poppin' Daddies. It's so funny because every time you're about to say some key words, it cuts out. So.
Oh, cherry
with the family member.
Daddies.
I'm keeping
are
that.
worse than Nelson.
You sound like one of your noise songs, right? I'm gonna have to send you a sample of how Cherry Poppin' Daddies came out because it sounded.
See, life imitates art, man.
Chibson Pop.
I was saying it slowly. Just I'm glad that worked.
Cherry Poppin' Daddies. I mean, these are two very low bottoms of music in general. However, I had to go in order to make a decision because swing is gone. We're not seeing another revisit of swing. I love the movie Swingers. I can watch the movie Swingers. I can even divorce myself from any of the swing craze of the time and their appearance in the movie. It doesn't bother me that much. However, Nelson, when I see Nelson, I just want to hurt life. Cherry Poppin' Daddies can at least play their instruments. It belongs in a fairground and not even playing like in an amphitheater. They belong being the band that you ignore in the gazebo as you're walking through the courtyard. They and should be paid like, $500 for the day, if that. Whereas Nelson, something about him just makes you want to hurt a kitten. And I don't like Nelson at all. So Nelson was my worst out of these two.
Yeah, I'll take issue with that they don't play instruments. I mean, they do play instruments. They play the guitar. Their father,
they're not good at it.
The legendary Ricky Nelson, a author of many a schlock 50s hit. So they
may not have played them. They may not have really been playing them too, because again, this was back in the era where studios, I mean, they would get ghost musicians to put on recordings. So
I'll say I have no objective proof that they can play instruments. I think it's a very reckless accusation on your part, especially given their musical pedigree. But I agree with Jason. I mean, it's almost comical. It's like the last like fucking death rattles of hair metal gone into just fucking soft rock with long hair. Mm-hmm. And it's like they're so glossy, and I don't know. I mean, it's just like a shitty one-hit wonder pop song. And I think the same thing I have with Crazy Town. It's like, it's a fucking one-hit wonder, like whatever. Cherry Poppin' Daddies is fucking disgusting. Their music's disgusting. Their name's disgusting. I don't like that whole fucking like retro bullshit. So I'll say Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
I have no opinion about either of these bands, especially in this matchup. They're both equally bad. So I'm going to go with Nelson just to make it a tie.
Oh, look at this.
So let's just, leave it up to fate, get a coin involved in this and just be done with it.
I love the lack of opinion. All right.
I think it's whoever wins the coin toss actually loses and therefore wins and moves on. I think
that's exactly how it works. I'm glad you remembered. Right. All right. Yep. That's it. The loser moves on. So
heads Nelson, and the cherry is closer to the tail. So Cherry Poppin' Daddies should be
Poppin' Daddies tails. Let's see who wins. All right. We got tails. Cherry Poppin' Daddies wins, so Nelson moves on. All right. There we go. I honestly feel that they are the worst of the two. I know the music is more anger inciting. Like Cherry Poppin' Daddies is kind of like your guys' Limp Bizkit. Kind of. Makes you want to break stuff. So last but not least, last but least. This is a really tough matchup of suck right here. We have Sublime versus Mumford and Sons. Some real tough decisions as to who is the worst out of these two. I even forgot who I put. I think I might have changed it from one to the other because Jason did have good argument that actually turned the tide from Sublime versus Sugar Ray. We were all going Sugar Ray until Jason started a riot by mentioning that they say riot, don't start a riot, and it's riot, not riot, to force a rhyme. And he swayed Ramshackle Dan and Nate to switch their votes. Now that riot is going against Mumford and Sons, the Trader Joe's of the bands here in the matchup, I would say. Well, or is it Whole Foods? Are they more Whole Foods? I don't know.
Maybe they're kind of a Sprouts. I don't know.
They're Sprouts. Yeah, okay.
That's perfect. So I can understand why you guys don't like Sublime. It's that type of music. It's like white guy Caribbean type of vibe, which is in and of itself whack. Completely agree. It's like G Love and Special Sauce trying to be hard. I think it's just where it strikes a nerve. because Mumford and Sons is like, and Nathan knows how I feel about public radio. Like, it's basically if public radio were a fucking boy band. It's just like these, these dudes sit around, fucking listen to NPR, wear their sweaters, their fucking indoorsy beards, no offense. They sit around and talk about fucking soft shit. They're just dripping with fucking male estrogen. They're the least manly. And it's always interesting. Like, you have these, like, it's like, I don't know. I hate to use this term, but it's music for soft men. Men who, like, have no calluses on their hands. Men who, like, don't bro hug, they embrace. They sing about soft shit. There's fucking, like, banjo in it. It's just god awful. And I think it really goes down to the point where it's like, what bothers you more, like tough guy Caribbean white guy rock or this fucking god awful shit? And quite honestly, I interact with more of these shits, especially when I live in the Bay Area. These dudes all over the fucking place, at work, in my social circles, like, fuck you.
100%.
So fuck Mumford and Sons.
Yeah.
God damn it, right at the climax, that's when it cut out, but then it came back at fuck Mumford and Sons. So I think we got
You're touching me. You're touching me right here with that sentiment. I just gotta say.
I too went Mumford and Sons. Now I love the music for Soft Men's Summary. That's great. I didn't. It wasn't even so much of a. I don't know what it is. They took like what Blues Traveler did, and they like upped this like kind of Dixie Chicks energy with it. I think what bothers me about it is the fact that I see so many people at those shows so excited, and it pisses me off fundamentally that they have a drum set up that's not being used. That there is an elaborate drum set that I see on their live footage, and they're all hopping around with all their instruments and all this shit. And I remember, one of the videos, as Jason pointed out, celebrities are playing them in one of the videos. They have Will Forte and like all of the hip guys from modern comedies, Jason Bateman and all that. And they're so excited. It's in a barn. They're playing it in a barn, and that's where it belongs, with the animals in the poop and the hay. And Sublime. What's weird is there's not a guilty pleasure at all in Sublime, but Sublime is one of those bands when they played them at the bar, I'd be like, oh, great, another Sublime song. And I think I kind of suffered from Stockholm syndrome of during my alcoholic days, of where it's like, all right, at least it's not that song by Sublime or something. It is terrible. Sublime is terrible, but this is really a matter of which is really truly worse. And Mumford and Sons. There's like an undercurrent of like, when you say music for soft men, I can't help but feel like this is for the gay KKK. Mumford and Sons. The gay KK, yeah.
The gay.
The gay. I think of that sketch by the Chappelle Show that they threw out where they had like a gay everything and they had a gay version of the KKK. And Mumford and Sons is like that group that I'm like, this is really a white power meeting, but everybody thinks it's not. And I'm like, well, I'm looking around here and all I see is a lot of white power. So anyway.
Yeah, you're right. The only reason these dudes would be in a barn is to go antiquing or to fucking attend a Klan rally.
And to fuck animals too. I have a feeling this is like romance music for people who fuck chickens and goats.
Oh, these guys are so fucking pumped full of estrogen and soy. Like, there's no fucking way they could even get an erection.
They don't think they're racist because they have jars of kombucha brewing out in the barn.
Maybe they're getting tagged by an udder, like a little nipple on an udder, like just a limp nipple of an udder is banging them.
The last time we talked about these bands, I talked more about the people I hate that listen to them for both of these than the music itself. So based on the merits of their music, Sublime has more things I can relate to. I like dub, I like reggae, I like a little bit of stuff. Rape. No, sorry. So take those elements of Sublime on, like, not combined, but on each to their own. Yes, I like the components that put together Sublime. Mumford and Sons with their folksy man bun ass bullshit, it's completely unrelatable. And when you're putting them up against Sublime, that really fucking says something. So yeah, fuck those guys.
All right, so that's 3 Mumfords. No pressure, Jason, but let's see what you have to say.
I'm going to change my vote. I don't feel that strongly.
I did have some things to say about Sublime last time, but honestly, Mumford and Sons is more offensive to me than Sublime was, or ever will be. Mumford and Sons, it's an easy, clean sweep.
Thank you. Good. All right. So we got it. That's unanimous. That's I think our only, well, no, Grateful Dead was unanimous, I believe, too.
Yeah.
So we were unanimous against Grateful Dead. I foresee a finals possibly with the Grateful Dead versus Mumford and Sons, which would be a hearty matchup of a stew, if you will, of weak men.
Limp Bizkit's trying to get in there.
Yeah,
Could
Limp
be.
Bizkit,
We could see. Maybe they might break stuff through. Who knows?
I think it's a good matchup for the Grateful Dead. Because if you try to think of like what's worse than the Grateful Dead, like Limp Bizkit's the only one that's going to give you pause. You're just like, yeah, but it's like every phase. Limp Bizkit has every phase of the game, including like terrible band name. Like they've got it. Like unlikable, shitty music, posers. Like I don't know, man. That's a rough one.
Good prediction. We got some predictions. All right, so we got some thoughts for our next one, which will be in 2 episodes. Because this is the quarterfinals. So in 2 episodes we'll get to the semifinals. I wanted to add something that we've been trying to wedge into our episode. So to have a little something extra for our fans who really hang with us. So we have a story that was shared in an episode that never got to be in the final cut. It somehow wasn't able to fit into the narrative of what we were talking about, but it's in my notes to be shared, and I think now is a good time to do it. And that is the Bill jacking off story. I'm going to give Ramshackle Dan the floor. Please, Ramshackle, share the Bill jacking off story.
You know, if I put Bill jacking off against Grateful Dead and Limp Bizkit, I'm not sure who would come out on top. Yeah, thanks, Dave. So I had this stepdad who I think Dave just referred to him simply as Dickhead. I think
I barely met that guy.
Maybe it was Mike. I don't know.
You guys Mike probably. Yeah, that sounds like a Mike thing.
He wasn't what you call a good stepdad. I don't think he wanted another kid. He'd already raised 2 kids. He was in the military, and I think he had PTSD. He was also a recovering alcoholic. I'm not trying to make excuses for him. Don't go Imagine Dragons on me. I'm not trying to like give you all Bill's good points, because these are not good points. These are contributing factors. And he was a fellow, recovering. He was in recovery, like Dave.
Breaking anonymity, man.
So anyways, I was out with my friends. We used to go to Denny's. Back in the day, you could smoke in Denny's, and we all smoked either cigarettes or cloves. And we just hang out and drink coffee and smoke cloves and like eat like, I don't know, fucking chicken tenders and shit. And so I wanted to go home to grab something. I don't know what it was. And I walk in the living room. Mind you, we lived in a 2-story house. And I walk in the living room, like right, that's the front door opens to the living room. And there's my stepdad fucking jacking off, watching porn. And he looks at me. I look at him. I'm like 17. And he goes, "Caught me." And I just like kind of looked at him, and he just kind of grinned. And I went upstairs and got got whatever I was getting. And then I left. And then I told everyone about it, and we all had a good laugh and whatever. Like time moved on. I was like, whatever. Mind you, he has like a VCR in his bedroom and a door and like, 4 walls. So why he was jerking off in the living room, I don't know. Anyways, I don't know. Like a month or 2 later, same situation. We're out at like Denny's or whatever. Go back into my house and walk in the living room, and he's jerking off again. And then I look at the TV, and he had dug through my fucking underwear drawer and dug out like this movie, Things Change, my first time. We actually watched the prequel to it on acid, along with that James Earl Jones movie and that chick fucking vomiting into the Stacey Keach James Earl Jones movie, The End of the Road or something. It's a fucking great movie. But we also watched the prequel to this, because that was a sequel, as a Christy Canyon movie where she only was with one woman who was super possessive. But I never got that part until we watched the prequel on acid. But anyways, Bill had fished through my fucking underwear drawer and pulled out this porno, and then decided to put it in the living room VCR and spank it. And I came home, and I was like, I looked at him, and he goes, "Caught me." And then I'm like, "Just put it away when you're done." And it wasn't, it wasn't the fact that he was jerking off. It's the fact that he like went through my stuff to find my dude was like an adult. You know what it was like to get fucking porn tapes before the internet when you're 15? I went to the fucking Abe's Liquors in Newark and I gave the guy fucking guitar lessons so he would sell me porn. I sat with this dude. His name was Duke, spelled D-U-C-K. I fucking befriended this Vietnamese dude, taught him fucking rock guitar so he would sell me porn. So whatever, dude's jacking off in the living room. I give a shit, but like I earned that fucking tape, like with fucking sweat equity too, and I had to pay for it. Anyways, I guess Duke could spell desperation, and he wasn't a good stepdad. I would say that's not even top 10 of the fucking worst things she did. One time, he's like, "Hey, you ever felt antifreeze? I don't know if you've ever felt antifreeze, but it's always kind of like 72 degrees. It's like you pour it in the radiator, it keeps your engine at a reasonable temperature, won't overheat and it won't freeze." And he's like, "Here." And I put my finger in the antifreeze bottle and he looks at me in the eye and goes, "Yeah, it's pussy warm." Just like, and those of you who knew him would never think that he was like a fucking pervert, but he was. Another time when they were older and retired, they were kind of having this issue that I didn't know about. And I was using the computer and it was fucking infested with porn pop-ups. Like he had gone down some sort of road where the entire machine was unusable, and they were just like tippy-toeing around it, but they knew I could fix it because I wasn't fucking elderly. And I fucking ran 3 different antivirus like routines on that thing to clean it out. But like literally anytime you clicked on anything, it would be just fucking porn popping up. So anyways, rest in peace, Bill. You'll be remembered fondly.
I just love when you say you put it away when you're done. I don't know if you're talking about the video or his dick.
The video, he could fucking, I don't care. He had a small dick too, by the way. Just for the fucking record. Got a tiny dick.
Can I make a point and ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, my point is I was a huge Christy Canyon fan back in the day, so I get it. He had to go in there and get your video. But my question is, do you think he finished either time?
Some theories have been floated that he couldn't finish until I caught him. And then once I left, he actually got, because, maybe he didn't have a small dick, but it was flaccid. And so maybe that was, people kept saying that to me. He's like, I think he wanted, many people have said this. I think he wanted you to catch him.
There's a song by the Yin Yang Twins that I think kind of hits in my head called, Jason's already shaking his head. The song's "Wait Till You See My Dick."
I was thinking the other song, Jason, which is it all started so quick. It all happened so quick. I had no time to think about it or think about it.
Revolting Cocks, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say aptly named for what I saw. He was packing.
Revolting cock. I think what you suffered from was some level of abuse there, Ramshack.
Wow, I've always wanted to be a victim.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, David.
Means a lot. Yeah.
The guy had a rough life, and if it brought him some pleasure to jerk off and get caught by me, like little old me, I guess I'm flattered.
It's like I love it. I can just picture him timing it. Like, all right, I got to bed, but I gotta make sure. All right. Ramshackle gets home in about 15 minutes, so I'll kick into gear about 8 minutes beforehand. That should.
With like doorbell cameras that we have now, it would be so much easier to make that happen. Not sitting around trying to guess.
Well, I could actually. With technology now, you could jerk off in front of somebody on Zoom.
Or what do you call Omegle? And then what's the other one? Cam. Oh shit, Cam Roulette.
Yeah, Chat Roulette. That was the one where that's actually would be right up his alley because that's all just a bunch of bills.
Yep.
I understand.
You guys familiar with that, Nathan?
No, not at all.
So it's like you basically, it's Chat Roulette is like you go in there and it just kind of like mixes you and matches you with some random person. And it's very famous for dudes like jerking off. Dudes with like huge cranks too.
Jerking off, yeah. It's strange.
And then there's actually if you go after this and you want to like watch some porn, not saying that you would, Nathan, but if you go like Chat Roulette porn, you'll see a lot of like dudes trying to get chicks to like watch them and then pretend like put their fingers in their mouth and stuff while he jerks off all over himself. It's good times.
As many times with friends get you horny, baby.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
So, all right. Well, that
Mariska Hargitay.
nothing like a limp dick getting caught to put a capper on the Battle of the Bads round 2. It's I think it's relevant.
And I love how the internet cleared up for that. It's almost like he's intervening from the beyond.
It did. It really.
Feels like finally my story is going to be told.
So he's jerking off like, all right, now I can come in hell. Thanks to Ramshackle talking about it. All right, well that is an epic round 2, and finally we got the truth out there about the Bill jacking off story. So that ends episode 15 from Jason on location today. Nathan from Newark and still in Newark. Ramshackle Dan, Mean Dave. Yes, happy holidays to Wyatt Tungate and everyone else. We'll be back in a couple weeks with topics and no Battle of the Bads. So please, viewers, again, if you're enjoying these, tell other people, and if you don't enjoy these, tell your enemies. Make them sit here and make it sound like we really are good, so they can come back and it's a prank, whatever. All right, peace.
Bye.